Hey everyone, it's Cory McCarthy, and welcome to another public Q&A event. Looks like it just went live. The live button just went up. So I'm going to wait for the people to start coming on, and we'll get this party started. So for those who are interested, I have products and services down in the description below. That includes access to Patreon tiers if you so choose. For instance, like there's Patreon tiers, we can actually join these Q&As by voice if you're interested. And also I have my ebooks down there as well for those that are interested. And the next public Q&A is currently slated for the, let's see here, the 24th of June. That's like the next one that I have on my radar. Next week on the 17th is going to be a Patreon only Q&A because I'm currently doing alternating weeks. This may change up, and I'll let you guys know when it does. But so for those interested, for your schedules, the 24th of June is currently slated to be a public Q&A. But next week will be Patreon only for those who are Patreon members. Let me get over to the chat box now because people are beginning to roll in. And let that load up. All right, so we got some people already joining on. Rational Lion says, hey, Cory. IJOP says, what is up with Isaac? What do you mean what's up with Isaac? Do you mean our collab? Like Isaac and I are going back and forth about this, but he's got a lot of stuff he needs to do as well, I suppose. Like, I don't know Isaac's full schedule. I mean, I know he's releasing videos of his own, but what he's doing in his own private time, I have no idea. So, I mean, these kinds of projects are really they're for fun. So it's not like we have a deadline per se for this, but the way it's going to work is Isaac said he's finishing up his half of the project. He's going to pass that on to me, and then I'm going to do my half. So it might be a lot like that Ration Alligator I mean, that's probably what it's going to end up being like. I don't know yet, but I know that I mean we're going to be roasting intersectionals, and I know I don't know if he wants me to say this or not. I'm not really sure, but I know he'll be roasting Unnatural Vegan a little. Depending on how his segment goes, my segment will obviously be a sort of a call and response to Isaac's segment. So I'll sort of like, I guess, I'm going to play it. I'm going to see what he creates first. I don't know. I haven't even really worked on my part yet because I'm waiting for his part to be done because I want to kind of make it cohesive. And it doesn't seem logical for me to do something until I know what he's done. So I know what direction we're going because he's taking lead on this project. So the collab with Isaac is coming though. Isaac's IJ asks his recent anger issues. Watch the Foot Soldier stuff. I watched it briefly, but AI is not really a topic I know much about. So I will admit I kind of phased out a little bit from that. And it was an hour and a half long and not really a topic I'm too familiar with or, to be honest, all that interested in AI, to be honest. So I will admit I phased out a bit. I also don't really watch a lot of YouTube, but I don't know. Wait, sounds like somebody's trying to join in the chat here.
Yep, that's me.
Hey, what's up? What's up?
Not much. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. This is one of the Patreons. See, guys, if you join Patreon, this is one of the tiers that join in by audio. This is Sarah.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Or do we got anybody else today?
Oh, we have a lot of people today, but they're in the chat box. You have to look at the chat box to see them responding.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna hit up a couple of the questions I see though. I mean, you can always ask questions too, but actually, this is one of the first few times I've had a public Q&A with someone join in, so I'm learning how to do this.
Yeah, no problem. Whatever you want to do. Sure.
Well, so Rational Lion. So actually, IJ was just asking about what about Isaac. Ask yourselves anger issues. I don't know. I'd have to ask him and see if there's. I mean, I know he doesn't like idiots, but I can't blame him for that. I don't like idiots either. Rational Lion says, do you think a calorie deficit would stunt growth in an overweight teen? Like, in other words, if you cut your calories back to lose weight? No, I don't see what that would be the case. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I don't see what that would be the case. I wouldn't drastically cut your calories. I mean, you could technically, as an overweight active teen, eat at maintenance level calories, and you will lose weight if you're active. but you'll still have enough protein and everything else for body repairing, and which is, you know, important right there. And of course, get enough fat for your hormone values. I mean, really, when I talk about calorie deficits, where I have most people cut back, and you'll see this in my ebooks, where I cut back mostly is from carbohydrates. It's not from fat. I keep fat at the minimum. I don't go overboard with it, like at 20% of your maintenance needs. And I keep protein. Protein is static. That never changes. But I cut back on carbohydrates. So you might be like 500 carbohydrates if you're in like a surplus or something. Maybe you're eating 500 carbohydrates. You'll probably drop back to like 200, 300 grams of carbohydrates, or maybe even a little less. Depends on your body weight, really, because everything goes by body weight. So you shouldn't have any problems with stunted growth. But my advice would be is if you are a teenager and you're trying to lose weight and you're overweight, get active, perform cardio, do your weightlifting, and eat at a maintenance level of diet. That way you'll maintenance for not your activity level, rather maintenance for your body weight, your particularly your lean body weight. That way you'll be able to get yourself to whittle down, and you'll drop into a deficit per se via activity level as opposed to your calories. Just kind of jump around here. And Sarah, feel free to ask a question anytime you want. Like, you know, if you'd rather do voice than chat. Let's see here. Quickly jumping through some of the questions here. Do I think Durian Ryder is guilty of with the rape accusations? I'll be really honest with you guys. I've not watched a lot of the Durian Ryder accusation videos. I've not really got too involved with that. And I don't want to say someone's guilty of rape without actually seeing the evidence myself. I know Vegan Gains released a video. Now, look, Vegan Gains is not a dumb guy. He's a smart guy, and he's convinced Durian Ryder's a rapist. Now, that's not enough for me to say Durian Ryder's a rapist. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, because I like Vegan Gains and I trust Vegan Gains' intellect, that he's going to be a rapist. But I want to look at the evidence myself. But at the same time, I don't think Richard would jump to that conclusion, as rational as he is, without there being significant evidence for it being the case. But for me to be able to come out there and say it myself, I'm not going to jump the bandwagon. I'll have to watch the videos myself and actually come to that conclusion. Because if there's one thing in this world I hate the most, and anybody who knows me well, and even people on this channel probably realize this, I fucking hate rapists, and I fucking hate child abusers, and people who beat their wives. I fucking hate those three things with a passion. Like, I actually have a vindictive level of hate for those kinds of people. They're like they're just disgusting worms, if you ask me. But anyway, that's my thoughts on the Durian Ryder thing. But I'm not going to jump to a judgment without actually seeing the evidence myself. What's up, Sarah?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, just making sure. So what was the guideline that you had for like the protein needs? It was like based on lean body mass, or was it something else?
It's based on lean body mass. So it's 1.6. The newest, it can go up a little higher depending on your deficit. Okay, if you're really deep in calorie deficit, so let's say you get yourself down to like a 40% calorie deficit, which is ridiculous. Like, I mean, that's like ridiculously low. I typically recommend 20%, but if you get yourself down to like 40%, which is fucking low as hell, I would say keep your protein around like up to about 1.5 grams per pound. And if you're just in like a 20% deficit, a slight deficit, you can stick to the 1.6 guideline, even up to about 2 grams per kilogram guideline that you see in the literature, the sports nutrition literature. So that's what I recommend. It's not excessive. It's high, but it's high for a reason, because active people do need more protein than somebody who, a runner. And when I say active, I mean strength athletes need more protein than, and this is documented, than say a runner or somebody who doesn't do anything. Your average person who is not active at all, which I do not recommend being that kind of person. But the average person who's not active whatsoever doesn't really need more than, I think it's about 0.8 grams per pound of body. I think that's the number. Maybe that's in kilo. I can't remember the exact government recommendation. But I think it's like 0.8, if I'm not mistaken. Which is kind of low, actually. So, actually, I think that might be kilos. Yeah. So
And
anyway, yeah.
the only other thing I was wanting to ask was, is there ever a point where you overdose on vitamin D, like supplements? Because
Yes.
I've heard that you can.
Yes.
So where's the
Yes.
cutoff for that?
I wouldn't recommend getting more than 5,000 IUs a day. That's what I've
Okay.
seen in the literature. There are people that go much, much higher than that. And there are situations where you might need higher than that. If you are under doctor supervision, if you are deficient in D, they might have you superload for a bit of time. But if now vitamin D is one of those kind of things that you're going to have a prolonged period of superloading. From what I've read, I'm not a doctor. From what I've read, a prolonged period of superloading D to ever have an overdose sort of effect. By prolonged, I mean like a month. That's what it seems to be, like a month of overloading D past like 5,000 IUs a day seems to lead to negative effects. I mean, see, iron happens much faster. Calcium can happen much faster, but D, it takes a little longer than the other vitamins. And some vitamins, and minerals, that is too, because calcium is actually a mineral. Some vitamins like C, you just piss out the excess, so it's water soluble. But more fat soluble vitamins are going to they can collect in the body, and that can lead to an OD.
Okay. So would 4,000 be a problem then? Like 4,000 IU?
No, 4,000 should be a problem. I take around 5,000 a day, but I'm a big guy.
Right.
A lot of the dosage requirements and recommendations you see on like the supplement bottles will say like 2,500 to 5,000 IU a day. You know, and they'll say take it once or twice a day. That 2,500. So you know, I take it twice. I have a 2,500 IU vegan product. Actually, let me see if I can get my thing up. Actually, it's shit behind me over here. I have this one right here. It's the Vegan Doctor's Best Vegan D3, and this one is it's 2,500 IU, and it's take up to one capsule up to twice a day. So, you know, that's what I do. I take it with a meal with fat in it, so it's better to absorb that way.
Oh, okay.
That's my recommendation for that, and that one is a lichen-based D3. So it's way that vegans can get D3 from supplements. They're lichen-based. I've seen some that are mushroom-based, but majority are like lichen-based. That is lichen-based. They have it like trademarked as something called VitaShine or something, and it's based on it's from lichen. Yeah, that's what I'd say. But I mean, I would still get your blood test. I mean, I think everybody should have a checkup with a doctor at least once or twice a year, where you get your blood tested. You know, the test for things like deficiencies, the test for things like maybe where you're overloading in an area. I mean, some things are to be expected. My blood work has come back showing really high amounts of protein in my bloodstream, which is to be expected, and my doctor isn't even shocked by that. But you know, some things are to be expected from lifters, people who are active and do eat a lot more than other folks. But you want to check your cholesterol, check your blood sugar, everything else, you know, just to make sure you're healthy in general. You know, that's, and of course, you know, for people who are, I'm not saying you're like this, but for people who are a little more sexually active, obviously they want to get themselves checked for STDs.
All right.
So that's my recommendation. Then you'll know where your deficiencies lie.
All right. So that's all I have for the moment. So you can go ahead and see what else everybody has.
Sure. Sounds good. Thanks for asking by voice. It's kind of interesting. It makes things a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
So what do I think of, Joshua asks, what do I think about bands and weights combined? I mean, yeah, that's fine. Like if you want to do a workout where you have banded resistance and weighted resistance, or a combination of both, that's fine. I mean, I've done that. I have bands for travel. I have bands for the gym. It really depends on what your goals are. You know, the bands can add that more tension to a weighted movement at the peak contraction than what you'd get probably normally from the peak contraction of a weighted movement. It adds sort of a cable-like effect to that. So, Johnny asks, does beet, ginger, and turmeric give you harder erections? I have no idea, but beet definitely gives you better blood flow, so I could imagine it would give you a better erection. But as for ginger and turmeric, I don't know if that gives you a harder erection. Alfred says I need a moderator for this, or asked me if I need a moderator for this chat. Tara is often a moderator, but she's not often always around, you know, to do the moderation for me. So sometimes she'll pop in unannounced and she'll do the moderation. but she's not available today for that. But she might pop in anyway. She does that sometimes without warning. David asks, plant-based but eternally skinny, probably because of how active I am. Easy steps that anyone else has taken to put some weight on. David, my best advice is to eat more and lift weights. If you're having trouble putting on weight, eat more. Eventually, you'll get to a point where you're going to put on weight. You know, some people just have higher calorie requirements due to their metabolism or due to their activity level. That, you know, it varies from person to person, really. So, you know, my advice is eat more and see what happens. You know, but don't eat so much. Like, do it little increments. Make it incremental. You don't want to get to a point where you're eating so much where suddenly you find yourself bloated and putting on way too much weight. Because there's some people that take that advice of eat more as like, oh, well, you know, I'm eating 2,500 calories. Fuck, I'm just going to eat 5,000 calories a day. That is a huge jump. You know, your digestion might have a problem if you jump that much. So what you might want to do is go from like 2,500 to like 2,700 or 3,000 or something like that, and see how that works for you. And then engage from there and adjust where needed, down or upward, depending on your results. That's what you want to do with that. Zhao, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. He asks, size and aesthetics, martial arts or strength, or all of the above? All of the above. You can have all of the above. You can be big and you can be aesthetic. Now, there's a caveat with that, but I'll get to that in a minute. Martial arts or strength, both actually, and strength will play well with your martial arts. They're good friends. Or all of the, so all of the above. Now, where I say caveat with aesthetics is this, is that some people take aesthetics as meaning I've got to get my body fat down as low as possible. And therein lies a problem, because once you get your body fat below 8%, for most folks, it might even happen around 8% for some folks, because there's outliers. But for most folks, below 8%, you begin to have issues with a testosterone crash. And your sex drive will begin to decline. Your strength will go down. You'll start losing muscle mass at a considerable rate, and it'll begin to be more progressive from there. And energy will feel like shit. Your mood will feel like shit. You'll be bitching about everything. You'll notice problems if you get yourself below that. And a lot of guys think aesthetic means that I've got to have Balzac-looking skin with like veins and shit popping out. Now, you know, aesthetic in my book, unless you want to be a competitive bodybuilder or a physique guy, aesthetic in my book is what turns women on. And the research shows that women are turned on by 12% body fat. That's a golden number. And I've done videos about this. And that was fertile women. So women who you'd want to attract if you're looking to have a mate, you want to have children, etc. Women who are looking for an optimal guy are attracted by 12% body fat, it seems. Now, there's outliers, obviously, but that is what it seems to be for women, their interest. And 12% body fat is like kind of like Daniel Craig in James Bond, or even Chris Hemsworth as Thor. You can see your abs a bit, but they're still a little soft. They're not perfectly etched in, but you have a V taper. You look tapered. You still look full and muscular without being dried out and ripped. Because if you ever notice, a lot of natural guys, and I push the natural lifestyle, a lot of natural guys, when they start getting really lean, they begin to look sinewy and kind of emaciated and sort of sunken. It's not the same as dudes that are juicing out the gills and remain full even at low body fat percentage. If you're a natural guy, you want to kind of keep it at a point where you can maintain a fullness and nice shape without being fat about it and without being too ripped and losing your hormones either, and all the negative things that come with that. So my advice would be is for aesthetics, 12% body fat. Size, well, as big as you can naturally get, keep working. Martial arts and strength, both. There's my advice. Joshua says, what about consuming 6 bananas in a smoothie in the morning? It's good as a good morning quick energy boost. Maybe put some protein in there with a slice of bread and hummus. Bread in your smoothie? Hummus in your, I hope that's on the side. That would be pretty nasty. But I mean, that if you like that, that's fine. I don't see any issues with 6 bananas and that sort of thing. You know, like what you're describing sounds fine to me. Beets have nitric oxide, so yes, erection might be better. It's true. Yeah, beets they contain nitrates and will help you get a better pump. better blood flow. They're good for your heart. They're good for you in general. Beets are really good to have in your diet. They're good to have for performance. I have beetroot powder that I've used pre-workout before. I still have a lot of it because I bought a fuck ton of beetroot. It's like this kilo of beetroot powder, so I'm gonna have it forever probably. The only thing is, if you have too much beetroot juice or powder in one sitting, it can give you explosive diarrhea. Just a warning. What is your opinion on high carb, low fat diet for muscle gain and health? I don't like the idea of low fat, unless by low fat you mean 20% body, 20% of fat of maintenance calories. Any lower than that, and you risk your hormones crashing. So, and that's based on research. I've covered that in videos. If you look at my channel and search for fat, just put the word fat in there. It'll bring up an old video I did. I think it was called "The Truth About Low Fat Diets" or something like that. It was the name of the video, and I looked at all the research regarding fat intake, healthy range, and what's optimal, and what actually can be detrimental, and why. And that's in men and women. Abraham says, hey, Cory, I like your stuff. Pretty interesting. Thank you, Abraham. Ariel Yankovic asks, intermediate fasting for 16 hours increases testosterone and HGH. I don't know about testosterone, but HGH, yes. Intermittent fasting for the 8-16 intermittent fasting protocol has been shown. I did a very old video on this, probably like 3 years old at this, 4 years old at this point. Christ, it was really old. Back when my videos had really, really shitty quality, and I was, you know, just had bad mic and everything. I did a video about that, and I believe the growth hormone increase is like something like 2,000%, if I remember correctly, 2,000% in people who are fasting. So it's pretty ridiculous, and it might be a contributor for why fasting seems to affect aging in a positive manner. Because of the growth hormone, and there is a play on growth hormone and the aging process. When we're younger, we have more growth hormone. By the time we hit our mid-20s, growth hormone pretty much comes to a halt, the production. What do I think about using sunscreen with SPF? I do use sunscreen with SPF. I mean, it's not a heavy SPF. It's like 12 SPF or something. It's a product by Alba Organics. It was recommended by PETA. I've been using it for about 1.5 years now, something like that, and it seems to be working fine for me. It's got a moisturizer built into, and it smells really nice. Some sunscreens smell like shit, so this one smells really nice. Doesn't smell like rubber. David Noble says 6 bananas seems like a lot of sugar in one go. I mean, I don't. As long as, in my opinion, however you want to eat your fruit, as long as it meets your daily calorie and carbohydrate needs that you set for yourself, that's your call. I mean, I've put sometimes all of my carbs into one meal. When I'm doing IF, sometimes it's easier to have one big meal later on and have maybe a small shake earlier, or like a smaller meal, kind of a snack earlier, and have my big meal after my workouts. And I've sometimes had like a big old bowl of frickin' berries with like upwards to 10 bananas and you know, maybe, you know, rice or something on the side too, depending on what my calorie intake is and what my goals are. Hey, Cory, are you following this current Ask Yourself Foot Soldier back and forth? Everyone keeps asking about this. No, I'm not. I've watched a bit of it, that it has something to do with AI. I don't know a lot about AI. It's not a subject that I'm really that interested in, artificial intelligence, that is. So I have to say that I tried watching a bit, no offense to Isaac or anything, but I kind of like zoned out a little bit. And also could have just been, I'm very tired because I'm very worked right now. I'm doing a lot of stuff, a lot of projects. Yeah. How do I lose love handles? Side sit-ups, Johnny D's asking. No, I mean, sit-ups aren't going to do anything for your love handles. You can't spot reduce abdominal fat. And this has been shown in research. You cannot spot reduce. What you have to do is diet. You know, you're going to have to diet down. Basically, calories in, calories out, or burn more calories than you take in. The old adage, does ring true. You know, put yourself like a 20% caloric deficit and train, you know, and eat the right amount of protein to maintain muscle, etc. And you'll eventually lose the love handles. But keep in mind, some people, there are certain areas, like for me, it's my midsection, because I'm European blood. My midsection is usually the last place to go when it comes to losing weight. My face leans out the quickest. The midsection is the last to go. So, you know, it depends on your genetics too, which one's going to be the hardest part for you to lose. Do I believe in a flat earth? No, I do not. I'm not a flat earther. Thoughts on replacing the bench press with the push press and still doing a strict press? I would do all three, or just the strict and the bench. It's up to you, but I would do all three. I would not replace the flat bench unless you have some medical reason to do so. It is a core lift. I consider it an important lift, being that it is a horizontal press. It is a core lift for strength. There are different planes of strength you should work. And in my ebooks, actually, I work through all the planes of strength. Examples of planes of strength include a horizontal press, a vertical press, like, you know, an overhead press or an incline press could even technically count as one. A vertical row, a horizontal row. So think a bend over barbell row and a chin up could be a way to go there. A squatting movement, a hip hinge movement, like a deadlift. A weighted, some people consider weighted carries or carrying heavy shit and walking like a farmer's walk to be an essential movement pattern. And some people consider lunging, unilateral, movements like that to be an essential movement pattern. But those are like your key movement patterns that you should be working in. And so I consider the flat bench to be an important one of them. And I would say the barbell bench over the dumbbell bench. Dumbbell bench is a fine accessory movement, but as your primary bench press, you should be doing the bench press. So, hey, Cory, what method do you use to determine your caloric needs? I base it on body weight. And you'll see, again, in my ebooks, I have actual, like, actually, Beast Mode by Science is incredibly comprehensive. I have a whole diet section that tells you how to calculate everything. And I base it on body weight. It's based on an amount multiplied by your body weight, and that gives you sort of a baseline. And then from that baseline, you kind of add or subtract, you tweak for your genetics, your activity, your exertion. It's hard to predict a lot of that kind of stuff. You can give someone a baseline to start with, but then from there, they might be pushing a little harder than the next person, might have slightly different genetics than the next person. Metabolism, for instance, they might have more muscle mass. All these factors will require, a little tweaking here or there from that baseline that you'll calculate, but it gives you a starting point. Hello, ideas for promoting a YouTube channel while boycotting Facebook. Twitter, Instagram, other YouTubers recommending your work. Collabs are a good way to do that. Like, collaborations are great because you tap into somebody else's audience, and then they can tap into, their audience can tap into the other person's audience. So you can share audience that way, especially if you collab with somebody who has similar views. This is why when I do a collab, for instance, with Isaac, that's going to be coming up, we have very similar views in the world. We're not entirely the same, but we have enough that's similar that I think that our viewer base is going to find commonality. There's still people that are going to disagree, but I think that we're going to find a lot of commonality with our viewer base, and I think both of us are going to benefit subscriber-wise from a collab. Same thing with Vegan Gains, but then again, Vegan Gains is a much broader audience because of how big his audience is. So there might be a lot of people I just wouldn't get along with that are, or wouldn't get along with my message, especially given my a lot of my political stances that I have. Let's see here. Wasn't Brad Pitt in Troy the body type women preferred? Yes. Women actually preferred the Brad Pitt look in Troy and Fight Club versus Frank Zane. That's the level of musculature women seem to be attracted to. Another one is, and this is just from anecdote, really, when the first Thor movie came out, women were going fucking nuts for the way Chris Hemsworth looked. Another example is, and the funny thing is, like, looking at it now, from a lifter's perspective, like, it's not that impressive. But another example would be that dude, I can't think of his fucking name, in the Twilight movie. When Twilight came out, and that dude who played the werewolf, can't think of his name, Taylor Lautner, I think. he had gotten himself he kind of buffed up a bit for his role, and women were going crazy for that too back then. They saw the transformation of what he was originally, being very skinny and then suddenly being more muscular with a nicer shape, and women gravitated to that as well. So I mean, yeah, women do like muscle, as research shows, as anecdote shows, but they don't like extreme freakish muscle. So brawny, but not necessarily so brawny where you look like, your muscles have muscles basically, and you're so ripped that, as women put it, does it hurt to look like that? I've heard women say that before to guys. It's like, you don't want to get so lean that, again, you have that ball sack skin, but also you don't want to get so big that you look like that you're going to break something just by touching it. Women are intimidated by that. They're scared of that as well. So find a happy medium. And yeah, the Brad Pitt look in Troy, the Hollywood action physique, generally speaking, because Schwarzenegger might be too much for some girls, but the Hollywood action physique, like Jean-Claude Van Damme in the 80s and mid-90s, and Dolph Lundgren in the late 80s. This is the look that I think women would find more attractive based on what the surveys seem to show. Will I debate or discuss vegan gains on ethno-nationalism? We've had discussions in private about it. I think the best person to have a talk with about ethno-nationalism, I saw vegan gains as discussion with that other person. There was this dude he just wasn't handling it very well. I think the best person, and anybody who hasn't seen this channel, check it out. The best person to discuss ethno-nationalism and race realism and things like that with Richard is somebody who has a real scientific understanding of biology and genetics. And a great example of that would be, I think, Alternative Hypothesis. Anybody who hasn't seen Alternative Hypothesis' channel, the guy nails that shit, and he understands biology. He's well studied in biology, and he can discuss genetics and biology in a way that I think, being that Richard's a logical guy, he wouldn't have any arguments for it. And if he had arguments for it, Alt Hype would have a great response to his arguments and give him more data. I think that'd be the best person for that. I don't consider myself an expert on politics and social stuff. I have a lot of the stuff I have that I've come to terms with, that I have an understanding of, has come from things I've read, studies I've seen, just logic, so I don't know if I'm the best person to have that debate with Richard. I mean, I'd be happy to have a discussion with him, but I don't think I'd be the best person to have that kind of debate, because it's not really my background expertise, my long-term expertise. I could definitely debate nutrition and fitness, though. And Isaac has suggested I come on sometimes in some of his debates in the future, and basically stand in for Richard as the person who debates the nutrition aspect of veganism with people who he debates. Like, I could have fucking smeared what's her face, Rummy Millennial. I could have smeared her, but Richard did a good job too. Anyway, do vegans have stronger bones than omnivores? There are omnivores with strong bones. There are vegans with strong bones. There are vegans with weak bones and omnivores with weak bones. It really depends on a lot of factors. Genetics. Do you lift? Do you get enough protein and proper minerals and vitamins in your diet? A little anecdote. In my competitive fighting years that I was doing that before I sidelined with an injury and never got back into it again. In my competitive fighting years, and that was by doctor's orders, by the way. I would have been headstrong if it wasn't for the doctor telling me to stop for a while, and I just never started fighting again. But in my fighting years, I took a lot of blows that should have broken my rib cage. I mean, I did break something, which is why I stopped. I busted up my xiphoid process, and it still fucking hurts like shit to this day. It will never heal. And in fact, when I bend backwards and I don't have a shirt on, you can actually see the xiphoid, the bone protrude through my skin. It does not tear my skin, but you can see it push out and push the skin up. It's gross. It's like a little tent. And that's because it healed wrong, and it had broken, fractured, and they found that with the x-rays they did. But I didn't break my rib cage the way that a lot of folks did who were also fighters and ate meat and whatever. Perhaps they didn't get the right minerals in their diet. Nobody else was weight training to the extent that I was in my team, my dojo, and which I consider my team, because we went out to competitions as a team, and when we won, we all won. The better we did as a dojo, the better we came. The better that we were considered. It was our reputation. So I didn't break the same way a lot of folks were breaking. They would break rib cages all the time. I bruised my ribs, but I never really broke my rib cage the way that a lot of folks were. And I think that came from lifting heavy, eating properly, good protein, good mineral intake, etc., that made my bones stronger. It's been proven that when you lift weights, the mechanical tension of heavy lifting doesn't just build muscle, it builds bone density. You get bigger, stronger bones. You become more physically formidable. This is another reason why I push the lifting lifestyle. I should really do a video about everything that lifting can do for you. It's going to be one hell of a comprehensive video. But bone density is another thing right there, you know? So definitely, I don't. It's not about vegans having stronger bones than omnivores or the other way around. It's about lifestyle and diet. You know, an omnivore that's getting enough calcium and lifts weights can have strong bones too. So, Confirmed Sanity says, "Hey Cory, longtime fan. What do you think of knee gears when squatting?" I mean, unless you have a reason, like a reason to wear them, like a therapist is telling you should wear them to help prevent some kind of an injury, sort of like, you know, I don't wear a belt either when I'm squatting, because I feel like that it's taking away from my core supporting the lift, and I feel like I'd be weaker later on if I decided to do a squat without the belt. And I look the same way with knee wraps. I feel like the knee wraps are sort of a crutch. Now, you might have a reason to use them, and that's fine. If you have a reason to use them, use them. But if you're using them simply because they make your squat better, I feel like you're using a crutch. I like not just non-geared lifting in the sense of drugs. I like to do non-geared lifting in the sense of I don't use wraps, I don't use belts, I don't use the wrist wraps and things like that for, you know, to help me grip the weight. I work on my grip strength. Like if my grip strength is fucking up and it's my weakest link, I do a lot of training with fat grips. I do a lot of, I keep deadlifting more, do more things to hammer curls, things to build up that forearm and grip strength. That's my advice with that. So, yeah, I don't really do the whole knee wrapping thing. Now, again, like I said, if you have a therapy reason for it, then do it, yeah. Let's see here. When is my video with Ask Yourself coming out? I don't know. I know he's finishing up his half. That's all I know. As soon as I get his half, I'll start working on my half. Now, that might take me a week or so. It might not be the first thing I get done with, because I have a lot of stuff I'm working on. You guys don't know this. I'm working on a music project right now. I got a lot of stuff on the side. There's a lot of stuff I'm doing besides just, you know, because bodybuilding and fitness aren't my only interests. So, would I consider myself alt-right? No, I don't consider myself alt-right. I don't really label myself, and there's a lot of things the alt-right has said in the past, and don't ask me to name them all here, but there's things that alt-right has said in the past that I don't necessarily get myself on board with. I mean, to what I am, and I think it's perfectly reasonable, is I am definitely right-wing. That political compass shows that. I'm slightly authoritarian, but it's offset by a lot of libertarian views as well. So it's not like a heavy amount of authoritarian. I want to see white culture prevail. I want to see it survive. I want to see whites have their homelands, you know? The same way that I think that Africans should have Africa. You know, I don't like this replacement that's happening in Europe right now. Just the way that the whole cultural war that's going on with everything else too, and that's so much to get into, you know. So I do support my own people. I support people supporting their own people, regardless of what people you are. You know, for instance, Japan is ethno-nationalist, and I think that's great. I think that Japan should protect its people, should protect its culture, should protect its lifestyle, should protect its borders. And why can't European countries do the same fucking thing without being called racist for it? So, you know, that's my thoughts on that. And You know, so I don't, but I don't really identify as alt-right per se, you know. There's a lot of stuff out there about me that people claim I've said or claim that I've done, or they've imagined or implied that, there's a meaning behind certain things I've said or done. And it's just simply not the case, you know. And context is incredibly important. There's some things that are just complete lies. I've had people come on my channel. I just ban them at this point because it's fucking stupid and annoying, claiming I've said certain things I've never fucking said in any context, you know, in or out of context. Those words have never come out of my mouth. I have people claiming that I've called for genocide. I am adamantly against genocide. I've never called for genocide. I do not agree with genocide. But people claim that I'm calling for that, or I agree with that, or I stand with that. It's this fucking absolute bullshit, and I'm sick and tired of the virtue signaling. I really fucking am. Because that's what it is. You get these people come onto a channel like, oh, I'm going to unsubscribe. You know, you all should unsubscribe too. That's virtue signaling. Fuck off. Nobody cares. Piss off. Anyway, and you'll see it on the collabs I do when I do a stream with Ask Yourself, for instance. There are people virtue signaling the stream. Oh, you know, you're working with Cory. Do you know his views? It's like, that's my thoughts on that. That's my thought right there. That's my thoughts on that.
I'm sorry, I can't help but laugh at that.
Yeah. Fucking, you know, just. Anyway, more. Let's move on to other questions. You know, I want to keep these kind of things more vegan. You know, I do a lot of social context in my videos, but I try to make everything vegan as much as possible. And even my social videos, keep in mind, even my social and political videos, there's a lot of times a vegan motive there, because I feel like that a lot of this intersectional shit that we see, that we have, that is destroying Western culture as well, it's affecting veganism negatively as well. And you have a lot of people that are right-wing that are afraid of becoming vegan because they don't want to be considered leftists, when they don't seem to understand it's not political. Veganism isn't political, but there are political things and social things that can affect veganism negatively. So I think these things can be talked about by vegans because they can negatively affect us if we start bastardizing and muddying the waters a lot with what it means to be a vegan and what veganism should represent. We begin to detract from the core message of veganism, the core purpose, which is not political, it's apolitical. So that's a lot of the reasons why I get involved in some of this stuff, is I can still somehow work it back to veganism. And as for things like attracting women or the state of men today and things like that, that's also another core purpose of this channel, is just fitness and lifestyle and being better and trying to better yourself, you know, and have a better life and improve your outcomes. That's another point of this channel. It's not just a vegan channel. It's a vegan and fitness and health and lifestyle channel. And those things can be interrelated and be mutually exclusive as well. So anywho, moving along. Let's see here. Is elevating cholesterol preferable for muscle growth, and is this a downside of veganism? You don't need to elevate your cholesterol by eating dietary cholesterol. Body can produce cholesterol and therefore produce hormones from eating dietary fat. You know, and I don't mean saturated fat either. You should limit that intake. But like, you know, eating just like nut butters and seed butters and nuts and seeds and avocados and that sort of thing, and you will get this is why I say keep your fat intake at a certain level, because your body needs it for the maintenance of health, for vitamin and mineral absorption, for skin and hair health, for your brain health, actually, because the brain doesn't just run on carbohydrates, the brain needs fat as well. For your hormones, your body will produce cholesterol. It can even produce it from eating carbohydrates, believe it or not. Some people don't know that. But your body will produce cholesterol from the raw materials that you give it. So you do not need to consume dietary cholesterol and put yourself at a health risk. You can just get it from your body will produce what it needs from the raw materials you give it from a basic diet that is healthfully crafted. Not this Durian Rider freely 80-10-10, you know, 95-5 kind of shit. You know, that I would never recommend anybody follow Durian Rider and Freely's dietary advice. Never. I do not recommend it. It's bad. That is one thing I've adamantly said so many times on the channel. I do not agree with Durian Rider on his diet advice. It is just bad. Bad. Okay. Let's see here. Athleen asks, he means replacing the bench press as a mean of specificity for Olympic lifting. Well, in the case of Olympic lifting, I don't believe those guys do bench press as a primary. I'm not an Olympic lifter. I haven't really studied Olympic lifting, but I do believe that they don't use bench press obviously as a primary. But I think some of them, they do use it. Like Klokov, for instance, I think he benches, but I think he benches as like a carryover to his overhead press or something. If I'm not mistaken, I've read some articles on Klokov. He's got some interesting overhead pressing techniques, and that guy can overhead press a fuck ton. He can overhead press a fuck ton. He's got a really interesting snatch grip behind the neck press, which if you have good shoulder mobility is a fine exercise to do. If you have bad mobility, you can hurt yourself. But he also, I think he uses the bench press as a means to improve his overhead press. I know Brian Shaw, I think it's Brian Shaw, who does a strongman also uses the bench press as a means to improve his overhead press, or his log press rather. He does, I believe it's in his routine, his shoulder routine, is there's bench pressing involved there. It might be close grip benching or floor presses, if I'm not mistaken, but I know he does some kind of a chest press. It's one of those two, either floor or close grip, or it could be the standard bench press. I don't remember. I remember seeing an article about him a couple of years back. I'd have to like catch back up on that. I don't really follow strongman and Olympic lifting that much. Let's see. Hi, Cory. How can I correct uneven shoulders being the left being higher than the right? I'm not a doctor. That sounds like it could be a postural issue. It might even be genetic. Maybe speak to a physical therapist about that. I would say, I mean, higher is a little bit strange. I really don't know how to answer that question. I'm very sorry. I don't feel educated enough to answer that question. Let's see here. Let's moving along. What do I think about the typical basketball physique of the NBA players and its attractiveness? You mean basically tall and athletic? I'm sure women find that attractive. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's a little bit less muscular that I'm into, but then again, it's not my discipline. So, I frankly have always been inspired by physiques like on a level that's more attainable. Like I said, Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren. I'm like inspired by those kinds of physiques. In fact, I love Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren's films and shit. Sometimes they're really bad, but I love them. Like I can watch even the worst Jean-Claude Van Damme film and be entertained. I also like Scott Adkins' physique and when he does Boyka in the Undisputed movies, the sequels Undisputed. He's got a great physique in those. He also had a great physique in the Expendables, the second Expendables film, I think, where he was playing a henchman who was working with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Scott Adkins is a fantastic martial artist. Gary Daniels is another great martial artist with a great physique in his prime. He played in Fist of the North Star, the live-action Fist of the North Star. He also was in the first Expendables. He didn't have a big role. He was a British guy, a blonde British guy. He got taken out by Jet Li and Jason Statham at the end. They double teamed him. He had a great physique in his prime as well. Those are the physiques that inspire me. And of course, I like Arnold's physique, but I would never be able to get that because I don't do the drugs Arnold does. I don't do any drugs at all. So I know I keep myself realistic that I'm not going to ever have that kind of body. And I don't think women really find that kind of freakishness to be attractive, to be honest with you. It's kind of an exaggeration of what women do find attractive. Even women didn't even rate Frank Zane that highly. They considered Brad Pitt to be more attractive, his body to be more attractive than Frank Zane's body. And this is like a survey of over 1,000 women. And I covered this in one of my past videos. They found that body, that the Brad Pitt body, to be more attractive than Frank Zane. And Frank Zane is considered to a lot of guys to be the pinnacle of how you should look. So, anywho, let's see here. What are my opinions on the Golden One, regardless of his vegan views? I'm friends with Marcus. Marcus may not be a vegan, but I agree with his views when it comes to women. I agree with his views when it comes to saving the West. I agree with his views when it comes to strength training, what it means to be a man, what a man should do. I very much agree with Marcus. Even if I don't agree with him on veganism, he's still my friend. I still consider him a friend. And if he ever is in the New York region, or if I'm ever in a region where he's going to be, I keep wanting this to happen. But if ever that's the case, I would love to meet up with him. I'd love to spar with him, train with him, whatever, and we'll put it on camera because it'd be a lot of fun. I think that my viewers and his viewers would get a kick out of that. Marcus is a good guy. I think Marcus is a good guy, and I agree with a lot of what he says, even if we don't agree on veganism. I don't even have a problem with Varg. I mean, we totally don't see eye to eye on veganism, but we both want to see Europe thrive and survive. So, I mean, I'm on the side. I may not agree with somebody across the board, but it doesn't mean that, like, I just adamantly hate somebody because I don't agree with them. I think that's a silly way to be. You might find common ground in other things, and you can still be friends with somebody who isn't 100% on board with everything that you agree with, and vice versa. I feel like that's part of being a mature adult. I think it's kind of childish to hate somebody for one disagreement. And I see so much of this shit nowadays when it comes to politics and social beliefs. People are like, disowning members of their own family because somebody voted for Trump. It's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. What is my opinion on a 36-year-old dating a 19-year-old? Okay, I don't legally. There's no problem with that. A 19-year-old is a legal. It's legal to have a intimate relationship with someone that age. I mean, Tara is 10 years younger than I am. But it's not a disparity like 19 versus 36. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, if they're two consenting adults and they care about each other. My only concern is men and women at 19, mostly, generally speaking, aren't really all that mature. They're not going to know really what they want from life yet at that point. I fucking didn't even know fully. I thought I did, but I didn't even fully what I wanted from life back then. And my only concern with that is that if you fall for this girl and you're at a mature spot and you're looking at a long-term thing with this person and they haven't quite caught up, that can cause a divide. And you can expect, perhaps, unless she's really mature for her age, there could be a nasty breakup. Well, I mean, breakups are a part of life. They suck. I feel bad. I mean, they suck. They can really hurt. I mean, I don't want to see somebody go through that, but you are kind of setting yourself up a bit for a potential nasty breakup because a young girl like that hasn't really found herself yet. She may not really start settling. I've noticed a lot of girls begin to settle in for what they're really looking. No, look, okay. Well, I have to caveat this too, because when I say most girls, not the ones that are out partying, and drinking and living in a degenerate lifestyle, but women who are a little more focused on. They're more centered and grounded and a little more logical. They kind of begin to know what they really want by the time they hit about 25, 26, 27. They begin to start figuring things out a little bit for themselves. Mature girls who are a little more mature. I found that dating girls in that age range, whether you're older than them or at the same age as them, tends to be a little more stable. Before that, you might find yourself having problems. But look, if you love this girl, maybe that won't be the route that it goes, and I wish you the best, and I hope you the best for that. But I'm just giving you a little warning that she might be a little immature, and that could lead to some divide, and could ultimately lead to a breakup. Just advice. Yeah.
Do you mind if I add my 2 cents worth on that?
Sure, go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah. I just want to add. I'm 27. My boyfriend's 46. So. And he's told me personally that I'm more mature than his 43-year-old ex-wife. So, yeah, in that age range, there may or may not be more mature. It really depends on the person. But there is some biological context to that, biopsychology, that by about 25, the prefrontal cortex of the brain is much more fully developed. And that's in both men and women. So, but again, some people just never grow up. So it really is boils down to a case-by-case basis. So
Yeah.
that's all I had to say about that.
That's basically kind of what I was saying. Like, I've noticed from anecdote that women begin to mature more around 25 to 27 range. Some women, because like I tell you, there's still women out there trying to get laid on a Friday and Saturday night at a bar or club, or thinking Tinder is a great dating app at the age of like their mid-30s. So some people just don't grow up. Yeah. Anyway, I've really dragged this question out. So I mean, I'm going to kind of move along a bit here because I'm getting close to closing point here. So I'm going to kind of like start picking questions at random. If anyone wants to super chat something, I'll see it right away, but that's up to you. I'm just going to start kind of going at random a bit. So next question. Grim West asks, another relationship question. I've been pursuing this girl, but she's hung up on her ex. He dumped her and he lives in a different state. Should I just move on or keep trying? Listen, right now, if she just okay, I'm not a Casanova, guys. I don't, don't think that I'm giving. I don't even have it all figured out. Okay, I handle women with logic. If that makes any sense at all, I go by my own experiences and I try to handle things with common sense and logic when it comes to women. Common sense and logic would tell me that this girl who just got dumped, if she just got dumped, is probably in what you'd call the rebound phase. And I don't think she's in a spot right now to have a proper relationship. Now, I don't have an issue with long distance relationships. If you care about somebody and you're mature and you're faithful and you really love this person and you have a chemistry, in other words, you've met them before, and you are willing to go through times of departure like that, that's not an issue. And in fact, sometimes I've found that when you go away from seeing somebody for a while, if you've had something you've had to do, or there's a space between because you're involved in sometimes long-term, often on again, a long-term situation, when you come back to that person, it's really hot and heavy again. Like it's the chemistry just explodes again. It's almost like the first time again. But yeah, I would just be careful with that, because she's probably, if she's still hung up and it just happened, that's not a good space for her to be in and for you to be dating. I just got a super chat, so I'm gonna hit it up. $5 from Nuanced Narcissism. How important of a role is hairstyle and head shape in attractiveness? When it comes to head shape, I would direct you to my video. It's about attracting women. I forgot the exact title, How to Attract Women Science-Based or something like that. Look that up. I linked it in my previous video that I just did. I have it linked down in the description, so you can find it relatively easy, or just type in attraction or women in the search box on my channel and you'll find it too. But I discussed what was considered the ideal face for men and women. They actually have done a pretty detailed study on this, where they had people construct the ideal mate, and then they based on actors and actresses as well. And they built this composite around what everybody had built, and it was pretty consistent, by the way. So there are consistent beauty ideals for men and women. You might want to check that out. As for hairstyle, that wasn't really mentioned. The face shape was. I say when it comes to hairstyle, find a hairstyle that suits your face. Like if you have a big forehead, find a hairstyle that kind of hides the forehead a bit. If your face is circular, try to find a hairstyle. Don't use an unflattering hairstyle. Let's make this answer as short as possible. Don't go with an unflattering hairstyle. I'm sure that you can probably figure out what looks best on you. You can ask people that are close to you to give you a good recommendation of what they've seen that works best on you. I mean, there are people out there who have hairstyles that just do not go with their look. And I mean, I frankly find that having longer hair, or hair that's kind of like a little more over the front of my face, works pretty damn well for me personally. But it might be different for other folks, So find one that works for you. That's my best advice. And check out that video I did for the face shape thing, the head shape thing. I'm going to pick one more question, and I'm going to call this one off because I got to run and do something also, and my computer's going to crash out. So, random question. Vegan Non-Extreme says, oh, yeah, internationalists have infected veganism. I think he means intersectionalists. Go to any vegan event in the UK, and you will see them. I know. It's a disease, and it needs to be eradicated. Trying to convolute the movement and co-opt it with other movements. It's destroying the core message. and it's pulling us further and further away from it. It's bastardizing the movement. So I'll do one more. Let's see here. Hey, Cory, big fan of yours. I live in the UK, and I was wondering what your thoughts are on the complete lunacy going on here in the majority of Europe. Oh my God, that's a really detailed question. I think that let's make this as short as possible. I think it's okay for Europeans to be proud of their heritage. I think European countries should protect their borders. I'm proud of Italy right now for what they're doing and how they're standing up to the EU. I'm proud of Austria. I'm proud of Hungary, and I'm proud of Poland. And I think the rest of Europe should follow suit. That's my opinion on that. They should clean up their countries, eject the bastards that are committing crimes. They should try to promote the birth rate of European folks, and they should do their fucking job as governments and protect their fucking countries. My shout out to Viktor Orban of Hungary for what he's doing for his people, and the leaders of Italy and what they're going to be doing and what they're planning to do now. More power to them, and I hope the rest of Europe follows suit. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna call it off at this point. I want to thank Sarah for joining in. She's one of the Patreons who supports me on Patreon, who has access to the voice, access to the Q&As. And I want to thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, guys.